Hello there everyone, welcome to the channel if you're new, welcome back if you aren't. I am EDJ, and we are continuing with Belisarius. So last time we did it, my friends, Rome is officially Rome again. Rome is Roman again, I mean. And yeah, Belisarius, it amazes me how much he's able to accomplish with so little. Like, I don't know, the man is like the epitome of quality over quantity. And yeah, I guess we're going to be learning about his further exploits into Italy. So I'm very excited because obviously, he accomplishes so much. By the end of Justinian's reign, the Byzantines are the largest they ever were, and they came close to taking a lot of the West back. Like, I know they didn't accomplish their overall goal of the complete reunification of a whole Rome, but they came further than literally anyone else, I don't think anyone even after them ever came that close. So, yeah, just overall insane. But we're not done yet. I'm actually really excited to see just how fast he blitzes through Italy. So, yeah, that's really all I have to say. I guess we ought to get started now. If you want to watch the original video without me pausing or, commenting or even seeing my face here in the corner, the link always down in the description down below. With that said, and without any further ado, let us get right to it. Let us watch Belisarius, the Conquest of Italy.
March 538 AD, Rome. After more than a year, the Ostrogoths have abandoned their siege of the city and are marching north. Eastern Roman general Flavius Belisarius, who's masterminded Rome's defense, has one parting gift. He waits until half the Goth army has crossed the Salarian bridge, then attacks with every man he has.
Sorry, let me get that one more time.
He waits until half the Goth army has crossed the Salarian bridge, then attacks with every man he has.
Smart. We've seen several instances of, from Hannibal to Napoleon, of stopping an army or attacking an army before they can fully cross a bridge. Even Julius Caesar did that. It's just a really great time to attack, right? Like, while you kind of cut off their steady stream of, reinforcements because they have to move slower to cross the river, meanwhile you kind of isolate and, divide and conquer, if you would. So this is very smart of Belisarius. This is a prime opportunity for attack.
The fighting is desperate. The Goth rearguard tries to hold back the Romans, but they are overwhelmed. The Goths push and shove to get across the bridge. Those who cannot are slaughtered or drown in the river. It's a final bloody victory in the battle for Rome.
Genius.
In Constantinople, capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, Emperor Justinian has just overseen construction of the most magnificent church in the world. The Cathedral of Hagia Sophia, Holy Wisdom. Now,
yeah, I've heard of that a lot too. For those of you who don't know, at the time this video comes out, I have a bachelor's in theology. I went to, a Bible college in addition to, as I'm still going to normal secular college. So, yeah, by next summer, I'll have a bachelor's in English. But as of right now, I finished my Bible college, my bachelor's in theology, and we do learn a lot about history. We kind of do learn about the Roman Empire, mainly during the time of, Constantine the Great and his contributions to Christianity, kind of making it, I guess you can use the term mainstream. And we learned about the councils of like Nicaea and, basically the whole Christian history, And yeah, Justinian is someone who we've also kind of looked into, and that magnificent cathedral he built. Just the Byzantine architecture and art and just everything about them, they have this look. I don't know how else to put it, but they have like an aesthetic. I call it the Byzantine aesthetic, and it's like beautiful. It's I don't know how else to put it, like eloquently, but it's a very beautiful just culture. So I don't know. I recommend just looking at it. You know what I mean if you don't. Just a very beautiful culture, that the Eastern Roman Empire had.
With God's backing, he's poised to complete another great objective: the reconquest of Italy, the Roman Empire's ancient heartland. But the Emperor himself will help to sow seeds of division among his own armies, to undermine his greatest general, and pave the way for the destruction of one of Europe's great Christian cities. In 538, Italy's largest and most prosperous city is not Rome or Ravenna, but Milan, to the Romans Mediolanum. Its citizens wish to be reunited with the empire, and at the Bishop of Milan's request, Belisarius sends a small force to aid them. They defeat local Goth forces at Ticinum and enter Milan in triumph. But in central Italy, Belisarius faces a dilemma. One of his best generals, John, nephew of Vitalian, has taken Ariminum with 2,000 elite cavalry. Now King Witigis and the Ostrogoth army is marching from Rome and will soon trap him in the city. Belisarius orders 2 trusted officers to get there first with infantry reinforcements. They are to swap places with John and his valuable cavalry, freeing them up for mobile operations. But when the reinforcements arrive at Ariminum, John refuses to obey Belisarius' orders. Instead, he adds the infantry to his own force and prepares to hold the city.
Oh dear.
Within days, John is cut off and under siege. The Goths make their first assault with a giant siege tower. In heavy fighting, the Romans beat them back. But John does not have enough supplies to hold out for long. John's insubordination puts Belisarius' entire campaign in peril. He will lose some of his best troops if Ariminum falls, but a dash north risks leaving several strong Goth garrisons in his rear, including 10,000 experienced Goth warriors at Auximum. Belisarius' advance meets with early success, as the Goths at Tudera and Clusium surrender without a fight. As he ponders his next move, news arrives that 7,000 Roman reinforcements have landed near Firmium. Belisarius marches to join them and meet with their commander, one of the most powerful men in the empire, Narses the Eunuch.
I never understood eunuchs. Like, I know in some, cultures, men would just chop off their, intimates, and, I guess it would give them political power or help them rise through the ranks. I never got that. It's weird to me. It's like, ugh, but it is what it is, right? And either way, yeah, John, you screwed up, dude. Gosh, poor Belisarius. He had to work with someone as incompetent as John, or at least John was competent at first in securing that, but he just insubordination, right? Just completely untrustworthy from there. And yeah, overall complete mess. So now Belisarius has to clean it up.
Narses, Praepositus Sacri Cubiculi, Grand Chamberlain of the Palace, is Justinian's closest advisor. As a eunuch, he can pose no dynastic threat to the emperor, and so is entrusted with enormous power and influence.
Yeah, it's something else I heard. Like, you could trust a eunuch because they won't have kids, I guess, and they're not tainted by the desires that normal men have, or something like that. It's so weird to me, man. Like, oh, ugh. Either way, let's get to it.
Narses had distinguished himself during the Nika riots, bribing sections of the mob to switch sides, while Belisarius and Mundus had dealt more directly with the rest. Belisarius has military command in Italy, but he cannot simply issue orders to someone as important as Narses. So he convenes a council of war, seeking agreement on the way forward. Belisarius's officers argue that John has only himself to blame for his fate. They should not risk the army to save him.
I would kind of agree with that. I mean, obviously I think we need to save them, but I also do agree with the idea that, yeah, he kind of brought it on himself, you know, insubordination and whatnot.
But Narses is close to John and thinks differently. If John treated your orders with insolence, most excellent Belisarius, he has already been punished enough, since it is now in your power to either save or abandon him to the enemy. But you must ensure that neither we nor the Emperor...
Explaining complex topics can be challenging. Highlight the text you want to simplify and let Grammarly
are also punished for his mistakes. For if the Goths capture Ariminum, it will be their good fortune to capture a capable Roman general, as well as an army and city subject to the Emperor. And the disaster will not stop there, but will affect the entire fortune of the war.
I'm kind of with the Narcissus. I'm with this dude. Like, he's kind of coming across so far reasonable. I was expecting him to be butt heads already with Belisarius and kind of be a jerk. But here I'm kind of agreeing with him. I mean, there's still time for that. I mean, we haven't watched the whole video yet. But, yeah, so far I'm liking his argument. I would be like, you know what? I agree with that. Let's see what Belisarius thinks, though. He's the genius, not me, right?
As the council meets, a message arrives from John. His men are starving, and unless relieved, he must surrender in 7 days. It is agreed that an attempt must be made to rescue John and his troops. In an elaborate operation, 1,000 troops are left to cover the Goth garrison at Auximum. One force will advance straight up the coastal road. Another force will move up by sea, threatening an amphibious landing, while Belisarius and Narses march inland and approach from the west.
Dang.
The plan...
like a multi-layered attack, right? 3 directions. If planned, like, perfectly and coordinated, I could see this being beyond effective, right? Right now, you know, I kind of finished watching, the Julius Caesar series by Kings and Generals and Historia Civilis, and it kind of reminded me of Agrippa, who was like kind of one of the first Romans, if not the first Roman, to kind of combine multiple fronts, like amphibian assaults with land assaults. It's just, you know, good. It reminded me of Agrippa and his genius, you know, tactics and in battle.
Works perfectly. Viticus receives reports of Roman forces closing in from all directions. Fearing encirclement, he abandons the siege and hurriedly withdraws to his capital, Ravenna.
Genius.
But despite their success, all is not well in the Roman camp. When Belisarius invites John to thank those who've come to his rescue, John announces that his only debt is to Narses. His words fuel the growing distrust between Belisarius and Narses. In the words of Procopius, historian and eyewitness, from that time on, these two men began to regard each other with great suspicion. The chain of command among Eastern Roman generals is not always clear, and is rarely set in stone. Referring decisions back to the emperor takes months. so a general's authority may often rest on his ability to win over his senior officers. It's possible Justinian encourages such a system to hinder overmighty generals who are tempted to challenge his rule. Is this why he has sent Narses to Italy, to clip the wings of Belisarius? We don't know. But for the war in Italy, the consequences of this system will soon lead to catastrophe.
Yeah, who knows, right? I'm not gonna... I'd give Justinian the benefit of the doubt, but yeah, I would also... could kind of almost want to believe he was a little threatened by Belisarius, because Belisarius is basically, you know, yeah, seems to be the best commander of the Byzantines at this point, and yeah, as we know in Roman history, sometimes just the mightiest man of war can just seize power at a moment's notice. And him being kind of almost, it seemed, unrivaled by any of the other Roman generals, just... yeah, I could see that, you know, where the paranoia starts to set in, but also they're kind of like, what, they were like friends, like, I don't know. I always got the impression that Augustus did trust Agrippa completely, you know, and Agrippa was just trustworthy, and that they understood that with one another. Here, from what I'm getting, at least the way epic history has been framing this, you almost get the impression that Justinian does not trust Belisarius. I believe full-heartedly that Belisarius is loyal, and that he has no ambition for sole rule. But, yeah, it's Justinian that seems to be the one who's a little bit untrusting, you know?
John and other discontented officers begin to encourage Narses to oppose Belisarius. It is beneath...
John's annoying. I'm sorry for anyone who likes John. He's kind of annoying right now. You know, straight up disobeys Belisarius. Doesn't thank anyone except Narses. Even though Belisarius was in agreement with saving him. And now it's like, I'm sorry. To anyone who likes John, I apologize. He's kind of annoying me right now. But, yeah.
His dignity, they tell him, to take orders from a mere general. When Belisarius reveals his plan to methodically eliminate the Goth strongholds in central Italy prior to an advance on Ravenna, Narses objects. The strategy is too cautious. Instead, Narses proposes an immediate advance into Aemilia to seize more territory from the Goths. In frustration, Belisarius produces a letter from the emperor. We have not sent our steward Narses to Italy in order to command the army. We wish Belisarius alone to command the whole army in whatever manner seems best to him. It is the duty of all to obey him in the interest of our republic.
I love this. So, like, Narses basically is like, hey, actually no. But then, like, Belisarius pulls out this, like, letter like it's a freaking trap card in Yu-Gi-Oh! And he's like, actually, I have all the power.
To which Narses replies, your strategy is not in the interest of the Republic. The army splits into two factions, each pursuing its own strategy. A potentially disaster.
Yeah, that sounds disastrous. What's the famous saying, a house divided against itself won't stand? Oh no. Oh, this ain't good. They're already, like, in terms of numerical power, aren't the strongest compared to their enemies, so dividing themselves seems beyond unnecessary.
Disastrous situation, but fortunately for the Romans, one which Viticus in Ravenna fails to exploit. Belisarius is able to take Urbino when its well unexpectedly fails. Narses sends John to capture Forum Cornelii in Aemilia. But in the north, a storm is brewing. This city of Milan far surpasses all the cities of Italy in size and population and every other sort of prosperity. This city, I say, has fallen into great danger. The urgency of the moment does not allow me to use many words, but you, I say, must defend the people of Milan in their peril with all possible speed. If you hesitate to come to us in the present crisis, the result will be that we will perish, after suffering the most cruel fate possible. 539 AD. Milan is held by just 300 Roman troops and its citizen militia. The Goths have reacted swiftly to its loss, and the city is now besieged by Uraeus, the king's nephew. He is supported by a huge force of Burgundians, sent by Theodebert, king of the Franks, a Goth ally, though how far he can be trusted is anyone's guess. By winter, Milan is starving. Its people are eating mice and dogs. Belisarius, besieging Orvivento, orders a force to march to the city's aid. But when its commanders learn of the size of the Burgundian force, they halt at the River Po and refuse to go further without support from John and his troops in Emilia. By now, John only obeys orders from Narses. By the time Belisarius has written to Narses and persuaded him of the urgency of the situation, it is too late. The garrison of Milan ignore their commander's plea to die like heroes and negotiate their own surrender, abandoning the civilians to their fate. Goths and Burgundians slaughter every male they can find in the city. Women and children are given to the Burgundians as slaves. One of the greatest cities in Italy is plundered and razed to the ground.
Oh man. Oh man. That didn't have to happen. I think that's the real tragedy of this situation, right? They had a chance of being saved. If only Belisarius had the complete control over everyone, but yeah, that was unnecessary. That's complete fumble. And Belisarius, I'm so sorry you had to deal with such situations. Like, just let... What do the youth of today... I'm young. But, what do people say? Let the man cook! Like, let Belisarius cook. Just let him complete control. Like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Rome being divided amongst itself. It's just like... You kind of get used to it, right? From, like, the crisis of the 3rd century onward. You think you'd be used to it, but it's still frustrating. Because, like, you think it's like... Guys, there's only so many of us. We're trying to reunify the western half that's been gone for like a century, or like 60 years or whatever. Nearly a century. It's like, you think that would like be like at the mind of people, and someone as proven as Belisarius, right, would be like beyond, yeah, let's follow him, but instead... pettiness and squabbles within itself has caused disaster. Literally the richest city full of Romans and stuff is now gone. Yeah, that sucks.
The destruction of Milan is the direct consequence of a fatally divided Roman high command. Shocked into action, Justinian recalls Narses to Constantinople. Belisarius, once more, has sole, undisputed command in Italy. The northern part of the country has now been ravaged by 2 years of war, in which time no harvests are gathered. Vitiges cannot campaign without supplies and remains in Ravenna. Roman forces can be supplied by sea with grain from Sicily and the south. But in the countryside, Italian peasants begin to starve. I will now tell of the appearance they acquired and how they died, for I was an eyewitness. All of them first became lean and pale, for the flesh, lacking nourishment, turned on itself, to use the old expression. As the evil developed, all moisture left them, and the skin became so dry that it resembled leather more than anything else.
Oh.
They changed from a livid to a black color, whereupon they came to resemble burned-up torches. Their faces always wore an expression of amazement and a dreadful sort of insane stare. Procopius estimates that famine claims 50,000 lives in Picenum alone, with bodies left unburied.
Are you having trouble trying to keep up with your professor? You've got to try Otter. Here's how it works.
Yeah, okay. So, you know, obviously we hear about starvation, but it's one thing to kind of hear it through an eyewitness. That sucks. Oh, man. Yeah, that's just a complete mess right there.
When King Theodebert himself suddenly leads a great Frankish army into northern Italy, attacking Goths and Romans alike, he finds he has entered a wasteland. His army, unable to find supplies and decimated by disease and dysentery, quickly withdraws back across the Alps. The war grinds on as Belisarius besieges the Goth strongholds at Faesulae and Auximum. Auximum is impregnable. Only starvation will force the Goths to give up. Skirmishes are fought in the surrounding hills, as each side ambushes the enemy's foraging parties. Belisarius is amazed by the Goths' determination. Eventually, he learns from a prisoner that one of his own men has been passing messages from Witigis to the garrison, promising help, urging them to hold out a little longer. Belisarius arrests the traitor and sends him back to his unit for them to punish as they see fit. They burn him alive in full view of the enemy. The garrisons of Faesulae, then Auximum, are finally starved into surrender. Belisarius grants them both generous terms. Then, with his rear secure, he begins his advance on Ravenna. Reinforcements from Dalmatia approach from the north. Ravenna is protected by a lagoon, marshes and shoals along the coast. Parts of its 9-meter-high brick curtain wall can still be seen today, incorporated into later Venetian fortifications. It is strongly held. But the Roman noose is tightening. A vital grain shipment along the Po River is intercepted. A mysterious fire breaks out in the city's granary. The Goth king puts much hope in his nephew, Uraeus, approaching with a relief force of 4,000 men. But when the troops learn that their own strongholds have gone over to the Romans, they leave for home.
Wow.
In despair, Witigis agrees to open negotiations. Imperial envoys arrive from Constantinople, but the treaty they offer to Witigis is so generous that Belisarius refuses to sign it, believing he's on the cusp of complete victory. Without Belisarius's endorsement, the Goths also regard the treaty with suspicion. Sidelining King Witigis, Goth nobles send their own delegation to Belisarius with a secret offer to make him Emperor of the West if he will guarantee their security. Belisarius swears only that no harm will come to the Goths if they surrender. An oath to rule over the Goths he will swear later, before Witigis himself. The Goth delegation is satisfied. What man would turn down the offer of a crown? The gates of the city are opened, and Belisarius marches into Ravenna at the head of his troops. He ensures grain arrives in the city quickly. Then he tells the Goth warriors, who outnumber the Romans, to disperse back to their homes. There is no plundering of private property and no violence. Belisarius has triumphed, but it will soon emerge he is not playing straight with the Goths. While I watched the entry of the Roman army into Ravenna at that time, it occurred to me that the outcome of events is determined not by the wisdom of men, nor any other virtue on their part, but that there is some supernatural power that is ever warping their intentions, and leading them in such a way that nothing will hinder that which is being brought to pass. For though the Goths were greatly superior to their enemy in number and power, and had neither lost a great battle nor been humbled by any other disaster, still they were made captives by the weaker army, and regarded the name of slavery as no insult.
Dang.
The days pass. The Goths await an announcement from Belisarius that he will crown himself Emperor of the West and rule over them. It never comes. Belisarius has no intention of betraying the Emperor.
I'm telling you, this man has integrity, he has honor, he is a Chad, the likes of which Rome hasn't seen for quite a while. You know, reminds me of the Romans of old, right? Just like complete awesomeness on Belisarius. The man is just loyal, and yeah, he just gives me great vibes. I really am loving Belisarius in this series.
He's allowed the Goths to think that he'll accept their offer, only to end the war as swiftly as possible. The Goths begin to feel they've been tricked, betrayed even. Suspicions which are confirmed when Belisarius is recalled to Constantinople. He leaves with the Goth treasury and his prisoners, including Viticus. Belisarius's rivals ensure that Justinian hears all about the Goths' offer of an imperial throne. But for the moment, the emperor faces a far greater concern. One of Viticus's last acts as king had been to send 2 secret agents to the court of King Khosrow in far-off Persia, with a plea for aid against their shared enemy, the Eastern Roman Empire. Khosrow needs no encouragement. He's been watching as Justinian strips his eastern frontier of troops for his wars in the west. Now Sasanian armies are on the march. Khosrow has set his sights on Antioch, second city of the empire, capital of the Roman Near East. Justinian believes only one man can stop him: Belisarius.
And he's right.
Thank you again to our video sponsor,
Again,
Fishing.
Fishing Clash. I've never heard of that. But once again, Justinian, you know, I'm not sure what to make of him at the moment. Like, obviously he's regarded as one of the best Eastern Roman emperors, you know, and I'm not saying he isn't. It's just obviously this conflict with Belisarius. It's a bit like, how much does he trust him, and how much does he want to, like, you know, kind of undermine him? I don't know. I don't want to think of the worst. I want to give Justinian the benefit of the doubt, but I can at least say for absolute certainty, Belisarius is a Chad, a Giga Chad, if you would, and that he took so much of Italy. He basically took the peninsula back, right? It's just amazing. But now the Sassanids are coming, and only one man can stop them, and that's Belisarius. And I'm really looking forward to that next video, guys, which I will be seeing you all next time for. Bye, everyone.